And you don't necessarily have to read 100% of those papers, but you can look through and scan through until you find a section that will help you write your introduction. Okay, and it might be only a paragraph, it might be only a sentence that will help you add something to your introduction to make it more complete. The general idea with an introduction is you're going to put enough information in there that an informed, educated, intelligent person can use that information to understand your research. Okay? And you're going to write much more complicated introductions next year in physiology. Okay, so this is a simple introduction you can get just started practicing on. Are there any questions on that? So next week the terrestrial is in, although one has been submitted already. And the week after the seashore. Okay. So I'm so glad with the way that we're matching everything up because the lab this week is Euramia as well. Midterm on Thursday. It's on Tuesday? He didn't correct this. So the midterm is a week from today? Okay.
Thursday.
So the midterm on Tuesday then. Be here on time, 11:25. Okay, so we're still in the protostomes. We're almost at the peak of the protostomes, the arthropods, still in the arthropods. And if you remember, the subphyla are well, he calls it Trilobite. And we just, in the lab, we just call it Trilobita. Chelicerata, Crustaceae, and now we're in Euramia, which includes the centipedes, the millipedes, and the insects. Pardon? Oh yeah, the arthropods are probably the most diverse group of animals in the world. And yeah, so that's why we have all these subphyla. And when you start breaking apart the subphyla, how many people tried to go a little bit further with your beetles? There are 2 volumes there in the lab down here where people are identifying insects as part of their master's degree. They have 2 volumes of beetle identification keys that are this thick. So together they're about like this. So if beetles are, so even within Euramia, it's stacked out. They've really, that's a whole other lecture. They've really been able to take advantage of every little tiny niche. Yeah. She was asking why are they so diverse? And basically that's a whole other lecture. The basic idea is that the arthropods have been able to take advantage of almost every little niche in every little ecosystem. We find them everywhere. Okay. So, Myriapoda, these are the centipedes and the millipedes. They're terrestrial. They don't have a wax on the cuticle. And all segments are similar and uniramous. So what does uniramous mean? We looked at the crawfish, pardon? Not branched. We looked at the crawfish last week, or crayfish last week, and they were branched, so they were biramous. These animals have uniramous appendages, so they're not branched. Okay? So now the appendage arrangement, the first pair of appendages are the antenna. The second pair of appendages have been lost. The third pair are the mandibles. And in these animals, mandibles move this way, very much like a crayfish. Pairs 4 and 5 are the maxillae, which you saw in the crayfish as well. successful. How are we doing? Are we done? Yeah? Okay. Class Kilopoda, the centipedes, they're elongated, flattened, predatory. They're not worms, though. I'll disagree with him on this. But they almost look like worms, though, because they're very flexible. They're very flexible. They have antenna and ocelli. Remember what ocelli are? They're the simple eyes.
Yeah, and the plum.
Okay. And they have mandibles and 2 pairs of maxillae. So this figure at the top here, that's your centipede. All right. Class Diplopoda are the millipedes. They're detrivores, so they're eating the decaying matter that's lying on the ground. And we often see them in, if you grow a garden or if you're a farmer, if you have a potato field and the potatoes are damaged in some way, either insect damage or sometimes I live in potato fields where rodents have gotten in. If the potatoes are near the surface, they've gnawed into them. And you'll find centipedes in that damage. And often the centipedes get blamed for the damage, but they haven't caused the damage. They're just eating the decaying material there. They have diplosegments. So those segments are fused in pairs, and they have 2 pairs of legs per segment. And you can kind of see that. I tried to find a picture. You can see that in this illustration some here, but you can also see the little red legs on this millipede here compared to those bright yellow legs on the centipede. The centipede, it's clear to see that there's 1 pair of legs on each segment. And in the millipede, there you can see clearly on some segments that there's 2 pairs on each segment. Sometimes the legs are clustered together because the animal is moving. So it looks like there's 4 legs. Here you can see 2 legs on one segment. Here's another 2 legs on one segment. Here they're kind of clustered together because the animal is moving. You also see, what are these? Are these 2 little red things here? Who can remember? Some of you saw them in your samples. Those are mites. So even insects have their irritants. Okay. So now we're getting into the insects. Insects, as I say, they're able to take advantage of every niche in the world, just about. And one of the things that they do is, and it's not that they're causing disease necessarily, but they're carrying things that cause disease. Okay? And so they transmit diseases. And as a result, they're the #1 killer. They're responsible for the most deaths in human history. Okay? And to just give you an example, the tsunami in 2004 killed 30,000 people. The wars until 2002 killed 398 million people. But malaria, bubonic plague, they killed 1 million and 200 million people, and smallpox. Okay, it's just another example. But bubonic plague is a bacteria carried by So on top of malaria, black plague, which we don't see that much anymore, although it's still endemic in the southwestern part of the United States. We have yellow fever, elephantiasis, typhus, African sleeping sickness, and encephalopathy. And that's a collection of diseases. You've probably heard the term encephalitis. So it's a variety of different encephalitises. The plural is encephalopathy. And those are inflammations of the brain as a result of different infectious organisms. So all these are caused by organisms that are carried by insects. Okay. Insects are also pests in animals and plants. Animals and plants that we grow to feed ourselves or to meet clothing supplies, things like this, cotton. Okay. So up at the top we have the living white flies on citrus leaves. We have the bollworm damage in cotton. We have the corn borer damage in corn. That's what I did my master's on, only I did it the corn borer damage in potatoes. We have the sorghum midge, which are eating leaves there. We have black flies. In Canada especially, we have black flies attacking cattle. We have deer and horse flies, which inflict deep wounds on animals. And what's not up there are bot flies. Have you ever run into bot flies before? Bot flies, real neat ones are mango flies. Search either one of those on YouTube. Bot flies lay their eggs on animals, and we have them here. And the eggs hatch. The larvae crawl into the animal, and they make a little home underneath the skin of the animal. And they live on the fluids of the animal that bathe them in that hole. And they stick their bum out of the hole in the skin in order to get oxygen. That's how they breathe. Okay? And so you will have an animal with a lump, and that's a larva growing under the skin. In some parts of the world, there are bot flies that prey on humans. And so people have to be careful. We don't have any here. We don't have any here that prey on humans, but we have bot flies here that prey on cattle and horses. Okay? And Gambia, there's this vet who's got a whole series of videos about mango flies from Gambia. They're really interesting. Okay. The thing is, out of all these insects, only about 3% do us any harm. And in fact, most of them are beneficial to us, or a good many of them are beneficial to us. Okay? We have the bees that pollinate, and I know some people have mentioned this in the labs because they didn't want to collect the bees. Okay? And the bees are under an enormous amount of pressure now. Bees are dying off all across North America. They're not 100% sure why. They think they have a variety of things that could be contributing to the die-off. One is certain pesticides might be contributing to it. Another might be certain bee parasites that are weakening the bees and making them more susceptible to winter colds, because they tend to die off in the winter. So the result are things like colony collapse disorder and things like this. The wild bees are very much down. We don't see as many wild bees on our farm as we did. The important thing, most of what you eat are a result of bee pollination. Okay, so we can talk about beans, apples, almonds, canola oil. Canola is pollinated by bees. So if we lose the bees, we're going to have a problem with food supplies. So it's a my chance to talk a little bit about earwig. And I don't have a photo to put up, but everyone knows what earwigs are. We didn't have earwigs here on the island until about 20 years ago. Okay, we were free of earwigs until then. And when they started to show up, there were a variety of things that happened. One is there's a specific flower that islanders traditionally grew, which is called the dahlia. They rarely grow them anymore because earwigs eat the flowers of the dahlia. So you end up with these lovely plants and no flowers. Okay? But the other thing we noticed once the earwigs arrived is we no longer got cornwort in our corn. Earwigs are omnivores. They'll eat all kinds of things. And one of the things they'll eat are the insect eggs that are laid on the leaves of plants. And that's where cornwort lay their eggs. So the earwigs are protecting our corn for us. So it's a double-edged sword. We can't grow dahlias anymore, but we can grow better corn, and we don't have to deal with what people call the worms that are in the corn. Okay, so cornworts, even earwigs have something positive. Okay, so the big thing about insects and other hexapods. Now there are some animals like springtails which have 6 legs but are not insects. And all of them belong to hexapoda, which means 6 feet. Okay? They're very diverse. There's over 1 million species. And they have 3 stigmata, which are the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. Okay. So on the head, we have 1 pair of antennae. We have actually 2 compound eyes. You can only see 1 here. And 2 ocelli. Ocellus is the singular, and ocelli is the plural. The mouth parts are the labrum, the mandibles, and those are on the side. And again, they go like this. Okay? The maxillae, and we usually have 2 maxillae, and the labia. So the labia is maxilla number 2. Now, the thing that always confuses people is how do you tell labrum from labrum? And there's not, I haven't found a real good way. If anyone does, that's wonderful. Share it with us. But the labrum is upper, is the upper part, and labium is the under part. Okay, on the thorax, we have 3 parts to the thorax. The first part is the prothorax. I should do this with the arrow here, because I'm not very tall. So we have the prothorax, the meso or middle thorax, and the meta or end thorax. Okay, and what these holes are is where the legs fit in. So each segment has a pair of legs. Okay? But only the last 2, the meso and the metathorax, have wings. But there's an exception to this. What are the exceptions? You guys know. How do you know you've got a fly? It only has 2 wings. It has 2 wings. And the 2 wings are on the mesothorax. And on the metathorax, you have the little